Welcome to the first episode of my new mini startup series for small businesses. It's called the Creative SheCEO, How to Launch a Creative Business. So over the next 4 weeks, I'm going to be talking about everything that you've told me that you want to know when it comes to starting your own creative businesses. So we're going to be talking about identifying your target audiences, pricing, how to get yourself seen and out there, loads of different things. And I want to keep these episodes and the style of them true to my brand and my voice. So they're not going to be formal lessons, on how you must do all the things that I tell you if you want to succeed. Because the truth is, it's going to be different for everyone to some degree. And some things may work for you and some things may not. But my main aim is to chat about some of the most common questions that I get asked when it comes to going it alone on the mission of turning your passion into a real business. That is one that makes you money, enough money to live off, and hopefully more. So I'm going to be telling you what worked for me and what didn't, when I started my stationery business, Vintage Twee, as well as chatting about some of the things you've told me give you the biggest headaches, the things that keep you awake at night, they make you feel uncertain, scared or anxious, and just the things that you want to know how to do. So like I said, it's meant to be true to my style, which is honest and real and simple. I don't want to confuse or overload you. So I'm going to be delivering these sessions straightforward and as uncomplicated as possible. No huge business jargon and all that. I don't do that. I want you to leave feeling capable, not confused, with some real actionable things to do to help move your business forward. As always, I'm going to throw in a few tales of my own experiences to entertain you along the way. Let's put it all into context with some real life examples to illustrate exactly what I'm talking about. So who knows what I'm going to end up coming out with, we'll see. But before we move on to that, I just wanted to let you know about something that's really exciting for me. And it's a course workbook, an online course workbook that runs alongside these podcasts. And it's called, same as the podcast, the Creative SheCEO, How to Launch a Creative Business. And it's a downloadable course that you do online that I designed myself to accompany this series of episodes. And it covers everything that we're talking about in so much more detail. And obviously there's only so much that I can cover in a podcast episode. But, the truth is, if you want to move your business forward and you want to do it right, there are some exercises and things that you're going to have to do and you're going to have to know in order to actually be clear and achieve those goals. And that's what I've aimed my course at. So everything that we're talking about, and I'll mention it as we go along, where the workbook will help you during the episode. But it's basically full of information. It's full of exercises, practical exercises that you can do to get clear. Checklists, templates, templates from my own email inbox that I send people that I've got results with, resources. I've packed as much into it as possible. And it's all stuff that I did that worked for me to get my business Vintage Twee off the ground. I'm not going to put stuff in there that isn't going to help you, that I've not tried and tested. I'm really passionate about that. It's something that I believe, if I've had the experience and it's worked, then I'll share it with you. If I haven't, I won't recommend it. So you can actually get it on my website. It's downloadable. So you can work through it at your own pace, on your own schedule. So the cost is £99. I know that people are always cautious of investing in themselves. I know that I have that problem where I always think, oh my gosh, can I spend, £99 on myself to achieve my goals? Yes, you can. Yes, you definitely can. It's hopefully, I've tried to make it affordable. It's not a life-changing amount of money, but I really hope that it is affordable for people so that they can still access it. I've poured my heart and soul into it literally every day and every night. I've been working on this. It's around 55 pages, I think, as it stands. And it's just a really nice workbook. I mean, I've printed mine out because I'm obsessed with it. So I wanted a physical copy on my desk. But it is downloadable, so it will come through to you as a PDF file and you can work through it, over the course of the next few weeks. So every time that you listen to a podcast episode, there is a section of the workbook that runs alongside with it that will help you delve deeper into those topics that we talk about and give you some practical exercises to do to help you get the answers to the things that we're talking about that you may be stuck on. So if you're interested in purchasing the online course, as I said, it's on my website, herhandmadehustle.co.uk. under the shop section, and also I'll put a link to it in my show notes of these podcast episodes so that you can access it there as well. So without any further ado, let's get to it. So episode 1 of this business startup series is all about finding your tribe. And that is the people who are going to absolutely 100% love what you do and stick with you until the end of time. They're the people that we want. The people who are going to like everything, love everything, share it, purchase it, tell everyone they know about you and your product or your service, aka your target audience. So one of the most common questions that I get asked is, how do I find my target audience? And the first thing that I say to people when they ask me that is, well, do you know who they are? And I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, the answer I get is no, I don't know who they are. So I say, in order to find the people who are going to love your work, you first of all have to figure out who the hell they are. Because you could have the best product or service in the world, but if you're showing it to the wrong person, then they aren't going to care, or they're not even going to notice it. So let's say, for example, that you run a business that's about making positive, healthy life choices for premenopausal and menopausal women. Okay, it's a random example, but it illustrates my point, so hear me out, okay? And that business, say, it's all about educating them on what they can do to help themselves through this difficult time. So your target audience is going to be women. They're going to be aged between perhaps 40 and 55 years old, who are approaching menopause or currently going through it, and they're looking for support. And then your son's football club, they're asking for some local services and companies to have a stall at a community charity event that they're doing. And they're offering you a free table to advertise your services. Great, brilliant. You get to get yourself out there in the community and tell everybody about how you can help them. So you put yourself a table and you get a banner made, you get some beautiful business cards, some really cool leaflets, and you may even get some freebies sorted to give away. Who doesn't love a free pen at a fair? I always love that. Or a keyring. And you stand there for 8 hours, and the only people who stop by your stand is the organiser to say thanks for coming, and a mum that you know from the club who you sometimes stand out in the rain with on match days, watching your kids kick a ball around a muddy field. Not ideal. And you leave feeling deflated and fed up and thinking that, surely there must have been at least 1 or 2 premenopausal or menopausal women walking past with their families, with their husbands, whatever, who would really benefit from your help if only they had stopped. Well, there might have been. But the chances are that there probably wasn't, because it's not where they usually hang out. At a football club, albeit a community event, but it's not where your target audience is, or where they would expect to find you either, which is probably even more important, because they're not thinking that there's going to be a stand popping up with a lady helping to, offering them support to get through the menopause, So let's now say that you uprooted your stall and you transported yourself to a different event. And this one was aimed at around 40 to 55-year-old females, and you'd be talking a different story. Perhaps it was like a cooking event, an arts and crafts event, maybe a weight loss group, a sewing group, something similar, even a mum's group. These are the places that your target audience will be. That's where they're hanging out. And that's where you need to show up. Now, this can be both in the real world, but also online too. So like in community groups on social media. So you need to think about who your audience actually is. And then, and only then, can you figure out where to find them. So I'm going to be talking a little bit shortly about a great way to help you really hone in on who your ideal customer is. But before I talk about that, I just want to chat quickly about the second most common question that I get asked when it comes to finding who your target audience is. And that is, well, what if I can't identify who my audience is? I don't know who they are. Like, what if you don't know who your stuff is aimed at, or who is going to buy it or invest in your service, and who would even want it? Well, I say if you're asking these kind of questions, then I would generally say that you kind of need to go a step back, maybe more, And first and foremost, be 100% clear on what it is that you're offering. So let's just say, are you making jewellery or are you making key rings? Because there's a difference in who each one will appeal to. Are you designing custom hoodies or, adult clothes, or are you designing a new range of, say, personalised dog clothes? Because you may have the same idea, which is like custom clothing or personalised gifts, but the person buying them will be very different. It's different when you're established and you can then diversify into other areas within your business. But at the beginning, you just need to be 100% clear on what it is that you're offering. So you know who will be interested in buying it. It helps you so much more focus on those people and know where to find them. So I'll give you an example for when I started Vintage Tree, my stationery company. Now, obviously now it is an event stationery company. Back then, I didn't really know what it was. I'm talking perhaps the first 3 to 6 months, really, when I was just making stuff. I was making stuff that I wanted to make, that I thought was pretty, that I liked. I was just experimenting and seeing what other people liked. And I think it's important that you give yourself that time when you're starting a business as well to experiment, because you'll find that things will grow naturally out of, what people respond to. You'll get to see what people like, what they don't like, what you like making, what you don't like making, and then you'll develop your ranges based on this. I think it's really important to remember that. Give yourself that time at the beginning to experiment. So yeah, when I first started Vintage Tree, I made these like glass jars. They were effectively just an empty glass jar, like a decorative one with a little cork lid. Some were like heart-shaped, some were star-shaped. They're really pretty. And I used a lot of mixed media on them. So I had like a little stippled effect. I did paper, lace. I used materials on them like vintage music sheets. And then I decoupaged images of vintage ladies on there, usually like Victorian images of some really pretty ladies, all dressed lovely. And then I've put some literary quotes on there as well, because I'm a bit of a bookworm deep down. Not many people know that about me, because I've not actually picked up a book in like 4 years. I blame my daughter for that one. But I will get back into reading, but I absolutely love books. I love the smell of them. I love the feel of them. I love walking into a bookshop and flicking through them. So I've not done it for a while, but I can't wait to get back into doing that again. So I incorporated a lot of this on my work, and they were little works of art. They were so pretty and decorative. I had them on my website, I had them on my Etsy shop, and I took them to like a few local generic craft fairs that I did, like the town hall, or community centres, wherever. And I sold none, not one. Everyone walked past, they didn't look twice, or they might have looked, but then I'd see them muttering something like, what's the point in them? And I remember it really upsetting me and feeling really deflated, thinking they were like, I poured my heart and soul into them. They were a real expression of, what I wanted to create at the time. I didn't know what I wanted to create, but I knew that it was something pretty and something vintage, and that's all. So I made these bottles. And I remember packing them away and just thinking, what a total waste of time, what a total waste of fee for the table. 8 hours stood there, the prep of making everything before, getting home, putting it all away. If you've ever done a craft fair or a fair of any kind like that, you'll know at the end of the day, when you're absolutely exhausted, the last thing you want to do is unload the cart and put everything away. Sometimes my stuff would be in the boot for weeks. I just couldn't face getting it out, especially if it had been a really crap fair. I just didn't want to look at it again. Anyway, you're exhausted. So it left me feeling really deflated. And then a few weeks later in the summer, so I must have been in business maybe 5 months or so, I then got asked to do a vintage fair in a historic little town not far from where I live called Haworth. It's where the Bronte sisters lived and wrote a lot of their books as well. And it was a vintage weekend, and I loved all things like that, hence why I started the business Vintage Tree. So I persuaded my mum and dad yet again to go with me to see how it went. It was a day out for them. They didn't mind, I'm sure. I think my mum just made my dad most of the time drive me to these places with all my stuff. And so I took my little glass bottle rejects along with some other bits that I'd done. I used to make these tea bag holders which had literature quotes on the front. They were really cute, and they came with a little tea bag inside, and they were decorated so nice on the front, and they were a gift. So I took them with me, had them in a basket, had my bottles on display. And I hadn't even been up and running 10 minutes when this lady came in, and she was dressed really smart in vintage style clothing. And she stopped straight away at my stall, and she just fell in love with the glass bottles, and she bought more. And I think they were about £8 each, and I had maybe six or seven of them. So, it was a decent sale for me. I'd only been open 10 minutes, and considering I'd sold nothing the last couple of fairs, I was absolutely over the moon. I remember my mum trying to bubble wrap them all behind the table, getting all flustered, because it caught us totally off guard, and I don't even know if we actually had enough bubble wrap, and she was just flustering, panicking. It was really funny. Anyway, we were just glad that we'd sold something. And as the day went on, I started selling more things that had never gone before, including my little tea bag favours as well. And I don't think I had much left at the end. I think I'd made about, I don't know, maybe £150, something like that. And I realised at that point that it wasn't that my decoupage bottles were crap or my tea bag holders were weird or pointless. It was just that I'd been trying to sell them to the wrong people. My target audience weren't hanging out at the local community fair or school fete. They were here. They were in historic little towns like Haworth at specialist vintage fairs where people appreciated little nostalgic keepsakes and trinkets, and they loved a literary quote and a unique gift. These people were my tribe, and this is where I needed to be. And that theory was proved further when I decided to attend some generic wedding fairs. Once people started saying to me that, you could see my stuff at weddings, they were really pretty, they'd make good wedding favours, I thought, oh, great, I had all this confidence, I'll go to a wedding fair and try that. And I had absolutely no success. And I was stood there amongst all the other suppliers, all of which were great, photographers, cake makers, but they were all very generic. And my stationery stood out, but not in a good way, because people just didn't get it. They didn't get why there was like ripped music sheets on the front of their invitations. They didn't get why there was like old pearls and jewels and stuff on top of the favour boxes. They didn't get why there was confetti cones made out of vintage music sheets. Again, I'd see them walking past and they'd be like, well, what's the point? I don't get it. They wanted something different. They wanted something generic and sort of clean and simple. That wasn't me. So I decided then I'd book a couple of vintage wedding fairs. Oh, and surprise, surprise, I got orders for my stationery. And I actually dressed up for these occasions in like 1950s style. And I used to get my hair done, like the pin curls. I'd get my makeup done. I'd wear these dresses that were like vintage dresses with underskirts underneath, really high red heels. Don't know how I managed to stand up all day in them, but I did it. And I got a lot of people over to my stall. People were interested to see what I was offering because I was dressed up, my stuff looked different, but it fit in with the theme of the fair. And I had so many conversations with people, realising that they were into what I was into, and that's why they were there at a vintage wedding fair. The people that I needed, my tribe, were the ones that already appreciated vintage style, and they were looking for exactly that. So I'd have conversations with brides saying, oh, my bridesmaids are all wearing dresses like yours. We're after a 1950s themed invite. Well, there we go. That's what I had on my table. It's all things like that. So after that, I never did a generic fair ever again. And I kept true to my brand, and I found my people that way. So for yourselves, you need to think about narrowing down exactly what it is that you want to offer. So you have a specific niche or a product, and then you can go all in and hunt down the people who are going to love it. Now, I've actually got a section in my online course in the workbook, which is all about really focusing on what your niche is. So if you're not sure, say you're like flitting around between different ideas, never quite sure what it is that you want to offer, there's a section in there that will help you really narrow down what it is that you want to do. Something that you love. It's got to be something that you love, first and foremost, otherwise you're not going to do it. But it's also got to be something that appeals to the right people. So yeah, there's a section in there that will help you do that. It's a really good exercise. So I just wanted to mention that there and then while we're at that point. But also, I mentioned earlier about really honing in on who your ideal customer is. And there's a really well-known exercise that you can do that will help you do this. And it's really common. It's used by marketing experts when they build a campaign to sell a particular product. You may have heard of it. It's called building a buyer persona. Effectively, it's just making up a totally imaginary person so that you can fully understand who it is you're targeting as your ideal customer. And Again, in my workbook, there's a fabulous exercise to do this. Mine's in there, my ideal persona that I made up. She's called Laura, and she's kind of a bit like me, really, if I'm honest. But again, that's okay. You'll probably find when you're creating your persona that they may just be like you. And that's fine, because when you're making stuff or when you're starting a business, you're doing it because you love it and you want to do it, and it's something that interests you. So you're probably going to find that it appeals to similar people. So don't worry if you feel like you're describing yourself. I think I did most of the time, apart from I've not got a husband called Tom or 2 kids, just the one. But yeah, once you get the course, you'll see it's really good, and it'll help you really narrow down who it is that you want to target. But the point isn't it to be as detailed as possible. You give them a name, you give them an age, you give them a marital status, if they've got kids, pets, where do they live. Think about how they spend their time, what are their hobbies, who are their friends. But also, it's important to think about what worries them and what are their frustrations and their pain points and what would help make their life easier, which is where your services will come in. So you gather all this information together, write it down and pin it somewhere that you can see it daily. And you can use this persona that you've just created to figure out where you're going to find this person, where they hang out and spend their time, both online and offline. So you know where to advertise your products or services. So are they a mum? Are they going to be at toddler groups? Are they going to be meeting friends in coffee shops? Are they house proud? Do they love luxury homewares and scents? What magazines do they read? So find out this information, which you are sort of making up in your head about this person, but you've just made it then so much easier to dangle your carrot in front of the right person. Because unfortunately, posting on Facebook and hoping for the best, it just doesn't work. We all know that feeling, and I go into this actually a lot more in episode 4 of this mini series, startup series for businesses, and it's all about beyond the feed and looking at different ways of advertising, because I think social media itself has managed to pull the wool over our eyes and think that we can start a business just by opening up a Facebook business page and putting stuff on there. Well, there's so much more to it, which we will go into later on in this series. But unless you know where those people are hanging out on Facebook, like certain groups, for example, and joining them, unless you know where they are, you're not going to find them. So you can't just post generically on your page and hope that the right people will see, because they probably won't. What you need to be doing is finding those target audience of yours, those people, seeing what they're talking about, what they're looking for, and then you can join in with the conversations when people are asking for something that you offer and it just doesn't come across too salesy. So you don't need to be thinking about getting thousands of followers on social media. Forget it, okay? You actually only need a decent amount of loyal, dedicated fans who are just going to love everything that you do and just buy it every time, or at least tell other people about it. And I read the other day that in order for something to grow, you don't actually need massive numbers. So remember when COVID hit? Well, who doesn't, obviously? And the government were going on about the R rate, which was basically a way of rating the disease's ability to spread. So if you recall, any number above 1 was considered dangerous because it meant that the virus would just grow massively, especially when we had no immunity at the time. So if R was 1, then the person was capable of spreading it to one other person on average. And any higher than 1 basically creates an epidemic. So you might remember that they were always putting, details on the news every day, every night about what the R rate was up to. And everyone was panicking, obviously, of course, when it was over 1. So in terms of your business, what I'm saying is you don't need 10,000 irrelevant followers on social media. What you actually need to start off is one person. One highly satisfied, completely obsessed, bordering on like stalkerish person to tell 1 or 2, even better, of their friends about you and just get them to check you out. Because any figure above 1 will mean that your business will grow. And then your tribe will be naturally formed rather than forced or paid for, and it will grow organically. And they will be as loyal as they come. And it's taken me a while to realise this, because I've always moaned about the number of like followers I've got on social media with Vintage Twee and with her Handmade Hustle as well. I think, oh God, I've not got that many. And how many actually translate to in terms of, sales or any sort of spending to make it into a viable business. But I've come to learn that actually the proportion of people who do see my stuff, and that's usually because they engage with me regularly, they are my tribe, They are the ones, they're buying my stuff. They're waiting to see what's coming next. They're messaging me, when's this out? What are you doing this year for Easter? Are you doing your Santa letters again for Christmas? They're the people who are the first to message me with an order, who are my loyal customer base. And quite honestly, they are my bread and butter. So yes, I may only get, 2% of my followers on social media who are actually customers. But that 2% are invaluable to my business because they keep me going. I mean, honestly, I think it was last year, I think like something like 90% of my sales came from social media. It was such a ridiculously high amount of sales. Sorry, this was at Christmas time, I should say, when I had my Santa letters going. Yes, I sold a few on the website, but they were all coming from social media because people were telling each other about it. So again, it may have only had 2% of my total followers, which I think is only about 2,500 on there, that were buying. But then I was getting messages from their friends saying, oh my God, I've just seen so-and-so's Santa letter, please can I have one? And then I'd get a message from their friend and so on and so on. And that is how I got my sales last year. And similar to this year, it wasn't quite as busy, but definitely was last year. So these are the people that you want to nurture and feed. Because even if you've only got 100 of them and they're all buying and they're telling more people about you in the process, then you're never going to have to constantly seek out customers or feel desperate for sales. So another thing that I want to talk about when it comes to your target audience is how to hook them in once you've found them. So it's all very well known where they are. You can join a few Facebook groups, shoot your shot, post your product right in front of them, but that alone probably won't bring you the sales. Even if you have got the right audience, you have to do something else. It's too salesy. So no one really goes on social media to buy. They go to be social. That's the key word. I know for me, unless, again, it's something that I really want to buy and I'm interested in. So I am the tribe of this particular company. I think, oh yeah, they've got that coming out. That's the only time I buy on social media. If I don't know the company and a post pops up about something, honestly, I just scroll past it. I'm not interested. And you'll notice that most of the posts that do well on social media are the ones that people either, one, ask a question, two, they're funny or entertaining, or three, they're useful. And that's because at the end of the day, us humans, we like to give our opinions, we like to respond to humour, entertainment, and we like to find out things that we don't know how to do. I know for me, my most popular posts, not as me as a business, but ones that I respond to, are things that I don't know how to do, like life hacks. Something pops up and it says, oh, like a quick way to clean your oven, or usually time-saving things for me, because time's an issue in this house, as it is for a lot of people. So I like to look for things that are going to save me time. So I'm always saving them, and as a result, I get shown more. And then I just get in this, honestly, down this rabbit hole of life hacks on social media. And then before you know it, an hour's gone. So I like to find out things that we don't know how to do. But, once you know where your audience is hanging out, you need to be that fly on the wall, and you need to listen in on what they're talking about. So it's not enough just to be in the same circles and put your stuff in front of them. You need to listen, really listen to what their problems are and see if you can help them. So, for example, I'm part of a few wedding stationery forums, or a few wedding forums, I should say, with brides in them. And I can see what they're talking about all the time. So, people say things like, oh, what's everyone doing for place cards? When do you actually give out your invitations? Does anyone know how to do a table plan? It's stressing me out. So that's their problem. They don't know the answers to these questions. So, I'll hover for a bit and then I'll comment. Just say something really informal, really friendly. I'll offer a piece of advice to genuinely help them. So I might say something like, oh, hi, Louise, whoever. Oh God, it's a nightmare, isn't it? Trying to sort out your seating plan. It can be really difficult. I'm a wedding stationer. This is a bit of advice that I could give you. If you need any more help, feel free, let me know. And then what I tend to find is that then they'll all go, oh God, thanks so much, Joanne, that's great. Have you got a link to your website so I can have a look? And I go, yeah, of course, Louise, there you go. And I put a link to the website on there. And then not only has Louise seen it, but everybody else who's following that thread in that group also sees it. So, I get a lot of people then, or a lot of leads coming through based on some help that I've given one person. So it's a really good way of sort of generating leads. And it's finding out what your target audience's pain points are, what's bugging them, their challenges, and offering a solution by just being present. And then you can introduce your services. So let's do another example that, may be more applicable to you. Let's say you make some amazing home fragrances that you just need people to know about. And we're going to be touching on the importance of samples as well later on in this mini series. But we'll park that for now and we'll just focus on these Facebook groups that we're talking about. So for me, I would join some Facebook groups in your local area, first of all. So thinking about who your target audience is with home fragrances, possibly female-led. Mum groups, I mentioned it before, they're good for a lot because we're always looking for an easy life and people to help us in any way possible. So you'll find, even if you're not a mum or you've got kids that are older, join the mum groups because they talk about everything. We do not just talk about kids. Most of the time, it's not even about the kids. I think I found a plumber on there once. It's great. Honestly, you can find anything. So join a mum group and you'll see what they're talking about. So they might say something like, oh God, has anybody got any idea how I can relax once the kids are in bed that doesn't involve Netflix or, reading a book? I'm bored of that. What do you do to really switch off and chill out? And then you could put something like, oh, hi, oh God, I know the feeling, really resonate with them. I tell you what I do. I light a candle. I have some amazing wax melts. I like those. And they really relax me. Focus on the benefits. And then you can always say, I actually make them myself. So I've always got them in. It's really handy. Really sort of like talk about it from their point of view, how it's going to help them. People always comment how good your house smells. Lead with a solution to their problem. And then you can tell them about what you do in like a non-salesy way, but it's like a genuine approach to helping solve their problem. And you'll find that then that person will probably reply and say, oh God, that's a great idea. Did you say you make them? Oh, I'd love to see. Have you got a link to your website? And you can pop it on there. And then you'll be in the thread. People will see it, they will follow it, and you'll probably find that you'll get yourself a few sales. But it wasn't a sales-led approach. You were genuinely there to help somebody. And that's the way to do it. So that's the key, being genuine and authentic, because once you've locked eyes on your ideal customer, you need to be that friendly source of help and advice to show them the person behind the business first, because when you show them the product or the service first, it's like asking them to hand money over to a total stranger. Unless you're an established brand, and then that's no problem. We trust them. And that's the key. You need to build trust with them first and just show them the person before the business so they can see that you're real, and you want them to connect with you and see who you are. So, I always say it's really important to have photos of yourself on social media accounts. And it's not about vanity. Although we do love a good filter, we've got to make ourselves look good, obviously. But it's about showing accountability and responsibility and authenticity. Because if people can see you, because they will check you out, even if they don't buy immediately, they will go and look at your social media pages and they'll check you out, or your website, and they're going to want to see a face. And it's important to give them that face to a brand because they know absolutely nothing about you. You're a name to them, you're a comment. That's it. And they need to know that you're real. So don't be afraid to get a bit personal. You don't need to tell them your bra size, but you do need to establish a connection with them. I try to now put videos on my Facebook group, the Her Handmade Hustle Facebook group that I run, and with Vintage Twee as well. I always try and put pictures of myself on just so people can see me working, what I'm doing. And again, it's not about vanity. It's just about showing them that you're here and you exist, and that in itself will draw people in, and they'll go, actually, I'm okay to spend £10, £20, £50, £500, whatever with this person because I trust them. I like them. I've spoke to them. I know them. And that's what's important. And, not everybody will be in your tribe. And it's important to remember that, because the ones who are will love you and they'll love everything that you do. And ultimately, that's all that matters. So who cares if you're annoying people with your videos and pictures of yourself? Well, they're not your tribe, because if they were, they'd want to see it. I've snoozed and unfollowed loads of people that just annoy me. I don't really want to know about it. It's like sometimes it's too much, or I just think, oh God. And that's because ultimately I'm not interested in what they're offering. If I was, then I'd be following their every move and I would be in their tribe. But I'm not. So that's what you have to remember, okay? You're not going to be for everybody. I mean, I think at the beginning of this year, I had a right good social media cleanse. It could have just been before Christmas. I really recommend it. Just get away, just do away with everybody that annoys you or irritates you. And it really helps your mental health, honestly. And if people do that to you, then fine. Again, they're not for you. They're not your tribe. So don't focus on them. Focus on the ones that are. So let's run through what the main takeaways are from everything that we've talked about when it comes to finding and identifying your target audience and where to locate them. So number one, before you try and find your target audience, do you know exactly who they are? You can create a buyer persona to help you do this in real detail. And don't forget, my online course will help you do exactly that. It's just one of the exercises in there. So you really need to find out who they are. Number two, if you don't know who they are, you need to backtrack a bit and look at what it is that you're offering. Because you've got to be clear on what your product or your service actually is in order to be able to get it in front of the right people. Number three, once you've figured out who your ideal customer is, you need to find out where they hang out. It is so important to get your stuff in front of the right people, both online and in the real world. So find your niche and you'll find your tribe. And also, don't forget to focus on getting loyal fans, not loads. Number four, join some groups, social media groups, Facebook groups, whatever, based around the interests of your target audience, and be a fly on the wall. Find out what it is they're talking about. Offer solutions to their problems. And that way you'll come across in a non-salesy way, but you'll be able to get your products there in front of them. Number five, focus on getting one person, just one, to love what you do, and then tell one or two other people about you. That way you'll see growth and you'll see your business just naturally take off. And number six, be genuine and authentic. Perhaps the most important rule of business for me. It's what's worked for me from day one. Show yourself. Don't be afraid to put your face on social media. You need to build a connection and trust with your audience. And you need to reassure them that your business is real. Once they have that connection with you, you will find that they will become part of your tribe. So I hope you found this episode useful, and it's just given you an insight into how to go about finding your target audience and ultimately your tribe. They are out there. Trust me, they are out there. And once you find them, you can nurture them, truly connect with them, just so they can love what you do. And they're going to tell as many people as possible about it. Why wouldn't they? I do it. If I love a company or I love a business, I tell somebody else. And I normally get that company a sale as a result of it. So why wouldn't that happen for you? So I'm just going to mention last time about my workbook for anybody that's interested for the online course. It is available on my website, herhandmadehustle.co.uk, under the shop section. And I've also put a link in the show notes to it. And within that, it's got everything that we're talking about in this mini startup series. So you can, if you do decide to purchase it, you can run it alongside with the episode. So you can open it and obviously follow through, do the exercises in your own time. Say there's templates and tools in there, and it will really help you get clear on the foundations that you need to start or grow your business, because without those foundations, it's really hard to get it going. You need a solid foundation so that when things get a bit shaky, which they do, when you're self-employed, it happens, it's bound to happen, then you've got this solid foundation to go back to. So it is downloadable. You can work on it in your own time. And you can listen back to these podcast episodes as well to save them at any time, so that you're working in tandem and you're going to get the most out of this course. If you can rate or review this episode, that would be amazing. Whatever platform you're listening to this on, It just helps me try and get it out there to lots more people as well. And just thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. I really do. I'm looking forward to next week's episode. So it's going to be episode 2 of the Creative SheCEO, how to launch a creative business. And it's all about unapologetic pricing. Pricing is a massive one for entrepreneurs and small creative businesses. We never know what to charge and we feel guilty about what we charge half the time. So this module, again in the workbook and on the podcast, is going to be all about not feeling guilty for what you charge. It's a really interesting one. I love talking about money. I love trying to help people change their mindset about it. So hopefully it'll really help you as well with lots of advice and actionable things that you can do to get you feeling confident charging as a creative. So thank you so much for listening. And yeah, I will see you next week. So every Wednesday there's going to be an episode released. So look out for it next Wednesday, episode 2 of the Creative SheCEO mini startup business series. Thanks for listening. Bye.